So obviously, thanks for coming along today. I'm just going to give a quick introduction and overview of the session. So my name is Struan Gard, and I am one of the board directors at the Chamber of Commerce. So this is the second session in our three-part webinar series focused on locating and growing sales opportunities. And this is delivered in partnership with 1,000 Steps, who are one of our premier partners, and they are a business-to-business sales performance consultancy that helps companies build stronger, more predictable sales engines. So in our first session, we explored the first steps in sales, which is finding new customers. So for anyone who may have missed that, there is a recording available. But today we'll be focusing on growth and specifically how we can turn opportunities into revenue. Then our final session will take place in July, which will look at how to leverage technology without losing the human touch. So today's session will be delivered by Fraser Morrison, who is the CEO at 1,000 Steps. You can see Fraser there. Now, he is a global Scot who has extensive, practical experience of sales, and he's worked with 60 companies on a global, worldwide basis. So he has some real world business insights, which will be really, really key for everybody. So with that being said, I am going to pass over to Fraser now, and he'll get the session started.
Yeah, thanks. Excellent. Cool. So I might be a bit clunky today because I'm like I said, I'm in Rome, and I'm doing this on my iPad. I've got Ryanair, and it was much easier to take an iPad rather than a massive laptop. So it is a bit clunky. If you can bear with me, that would be fab. Cool. As Struan said, my name's Fraser Morrison. I think some of you have met me before. I'm a global Scot. So what that means is we're a part of a group of people that are a Scottish enterprise group that are responsible for helping Scottish companies come out of Scotland and expand in an international sense. And we also do a little bit of work with the Scottish government, giving them advice on how to export, how to scale. And so there's it's an amazing resource for you all to sort of tap into. I've been in sales since I was 21 years old. I run a consulting firm now that manages business development for about 60 companies worldwide. So we get really deep insight into what companies are doing, what's working and what's not working. Our primary goal with companies is how do they make money? How do they monetize what they've got, monetize their products? I come from the world of selling for me is not about closing and pushing people into doing things. I don't like that. I don't like it when people do it with me, and I don't particularly think that clients in this world want to buy that way with that style anymore. So this session is about how to make money, how do we make money in this new world, and can we make money in this new world, and what do we need to do to change that? I've broken it into three sort of simple parts, so I'll run through those. We'll send the deck to you. There's going to be a video from this as well. Look, the world has changed. Sales hasn't kept up. I keep coming across salespeople and sales managers who want to sell by closing deals, yeah, right? And everything's about closing, everything's about driving revenue, everything's about them, not the client. And it really hasn't kept up here, right? It's not that's not the way people buy. And as we sort of navigate through this, you're gonna, I hopefully can put that point across to you. That people don't want to be sold to anymore, right? They want you to work with them, they want you to engage with them, and if you get it right, you'll have a friend and a trusted relationship and a client for life. Yeah, right. That should be the ultimate goal. I mean, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. There's always going to be scenarios where it isn't work out quite the way that we want it to work out. But I mean, I know in my world, all of our clients, we have a beautiful relationship with them. They like us. Sometimes we get what we do wrong and it doesn't work perfectly, but we are very client centric. And I can't think the last time. But actually, I once had a webinar one client that I ran, and it was an anger management company teaching managers how to manage angry people. And he actually got angry in a webinar, right? And so we lost him as a client, right? Because of the embarrassment to him because of that, yeah. But that's about the worst thing that has ever happened to us, over the last 12 years from a client point of view, because we love our clients, yeah, right? And that's the sort of foundation of what we do. I'm gonna, before we start, I want to do a quick survey with you. Can we do, Shara, could you do the survey? Is that possible? Yeah. So I just sort of want you to run through, you know, these questions. Yeah, right. So the first question is, how strong is your revenue forecast for the next 12 months? Is it good, bad? Is it extremely strong? Yeah. How confident are you that you can hit your targets? And is driving more revenue important to you at the moment? Yeah. So and then submit that. More to get you to reflect. More to get you to reflect on where you're at. Yeah. Cool. So, we've got most of you in the middle here from a revenue point of view. Are you confident in hitting your targets? Again, middle of the road, most of you. And is driving around more revenue important? Yeah. So that's good, right? At least we're all in the same page. Yeah. Driving more revenue is important. I'm hopefully the ones that it's not so important is because you don't need to. Right. So again, for me, more the point with this. Sorry, can you see this presentation? Everybody can see this, okay?
Yeah, you
Yes.
can see
Hopefully
it
it's
fine. Yeah.
working good. Cool. See, I want you to think about revenue as in, can I control it? Can I manage it? Can I say I want more and go out there and make changes within my business and be able to do that? Most companies can't do that. Most companies can't control the volume of revenue they have coming in. They can't say, look, I'm going to double it, right, over the next year and a half, or I'm going to increase by 15% every year. And that's because they lack structure, right? And that's because they lack a process around what they're doing. Um, uh, Before we start, AI is already doing some of the selling. You're, there's no doubt it's impacting things, yeah, right? In a really positive way. Yeah. So this is not a negative thing. AI is, I mean, just from a sales point of view in my world, it's helping me enormously. But more from a buyer's perspective, AI lets the clients find information. Yeah. Okay. So they are able, you're able to do it. We all know that we have access to knowledge now that we never had before. We if we want to buy computing equipment, we can find out about it. If we want to buy engineering, if we want consulting services, there's a plethora of things going on within AI. I was talking to the head of sales for one of the biggest consulting firms in the world, yeah, right? With coming up to 1 million staff here, right? And about 700,000 staff, I think they have, yeah. And they were saying that their whole world is changing and transforming quite profoundly because of AI, and the quality of what they can deliver is getting better, but also the quality of how the clients are engaging with them is changing. And sort of terrifyingly, not terrifyingly, but AI is doing selling now, and avatars are doing it, right? It's and think about it. Why would you deal with why would you want to deal if you've had a bad experience with a salesperson in the past? Why would you want to deal with another salesperson when you can deal with an avatar that's in theory going to tell you the truth and going to engage with you? And this is not a debate. It is definitely happening here, right? I mean, we're doing some work with one of the leading avatar companies in the world from a coaching perspective. We've just built a framework for coaching salespeople through introductory meetings, and it's quite staggering what it can do. Yeah, so it's really quite amazing. And the avatars are realistic. They have expressions. They feel emotions, and you'd be quite surprised. And so we are going to go here. So what what allows you to carry on functioning in there, and how do you do it? The first thing is you need to get rid of the theory of sell, 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 because when you're selling, you're killing the relationship. We've worked with many companies, and we see organizations pushing product constantly, regardless of the fit, regardless if it's the right thing for the client. And then, and I sort of understand why it happens like that. Like, companies need to make money. The salesperson is on a target. So when they go to do a meeting with a client, the purpose of the meeting is to sell to them, right? And that's but that shouldn't be the purpose of the meeting. The purpose of the meeting should be to build a relationship. A sale is a byproduct of a healthy relationship and a healthy process. Yeah. So we need to become client centric. Yeah, right. We need to become non-transactional, and we need to be part of the client's journey. Okay, that's the future. Yeah, right. And so the pragmatic question is, how do we do it? Yeah, right. How do we engage like that? And I want to reinforce this point. Think of a doctor, and you have two doctors. One's very transactional, and one's very long term with you. Doctor A chats to you, very nice, prescribes, moves on, transaction complete, on to the next patient. You don't have a trusted relationship there. Doctor B is part of the patient's life, and definitely sometimes medication, sometimes not, sometimes a referral. But you always go back to that doctor because you like them and you trust them. And that's where we want to be from a client perspective with our clients. Okay. So people buy based on four things. First of all, will it do what it should? Okay, the product. Products, if you've not got product market fit, it's not what they want, it's not going to work, right? And it's important not to sell something that's the wrong thing. I was with someone 3 days ago in Edinburgh, and we were talking about their product, and they said, "Well, my product doesn't do what they want. I want them to do this." And that's the flaw, right? We need to sit and say, number one, right? If our product doesn't do that, we need to be candid with the client about that. And sometimes if you say to the client, look, our product's not going to be doing this at the moment. It does this, yeah, right? Do you mind if I carry on down this road with you? Rather than forcing them down that road. If they say, no, I don't want to go there, then it's good. You've developed trust on the back of that. They're also looking at how hard is it to implement? How hard is it to do whatever you're going to do for me? How much does it cost? It's third. Notice it's not first. I know we all think it's first. It's not first. It's never first. I've never ever seen it first. If the sales process is done properly, it's not first. And then finally, do I trust the person? Do I like the person? Okay, so if you have these four things, you're going to find that you make a lot more money. Let's come back to, I won't name names, but I've one of my team that works with us, yeah, right, is an amazing guy, right? Absolutely fantastic, smart, he's good looking, he's enthusiastic, super well educated, clients love him. But last year he produced about 20% of what I produced. We made some changes, we developed the skill sets, we got him to engage with clients in a slightly different way. We changed his lead generation framework as well. And this year he's produced 100% more than me so far, which is amazing. So you can quite profoundly change if you get the right framework in place. It will generate more revenue. So, and I think we have to accept the reality that not every person that you're talking to wants to buy today, and that's okay. Yeah. So we've got different leads that come in, yeah, right? We've got inbound leads where they have a need. We're in a sales process from moment one, yeah. But we've also got outbound leads, which is people that can buy from us, yeah, right? They maybe have a need, but they just are not aware of it, and we need to work with them on a journey and build that relationship. Okay. So the, statistically, 90% of buying decisions are done before first contact, yeah. Okay, so these are the inbound leads, yeah. But the outbound leads are still the same people, just earlier in that process that they're in of getting to that 90%. And that's a really critical point to think about, yeah, right? That there's two different people here, right? There's people that are buying actively at the moment, and then there's people who are not buying actively, but will buy at some point in the next 5 years. You want to be the first person that they communicate with. So that's where you build a healthy pipeline. You build a pipeline of active prospects that are buying at the moment and active contacts that could buy from you in the future. That the money is there, right? And handling both of these is a different thing. So, look, see, so I'm going to go through three different sort of workflows today that I think you can practically apply. And I would guarantee that they will increase your revenue unless your product's broken, right? But guarantee they'll increase your revenue by 30, 40, 50, 100% over the next 12 months. And I don't say that lightly. That's not I know it works like this, sure, right? It's particularly if you don't have a good structure in place, yeah. So the first part is about nurture and managing your contact database. The second part is a meeting framework that's not about selling. And the third part is about your opportunity management piece. How do you manage a sales process in a healthy fashion? So there's three different parts that I'm going to cover very quickly. So first of all, we 90% of buying decisions are already made, and the 84% of the people that they reach out to will get the sale. Understand how profound that is, yeah? They are basically going to someone they trust and like and saying, I have a problem with this, I want to address this now, yeah? Okay. So if they're not thinking about you when they make that decision, you've missed the opportunity. You've missed the opportunity to take advantage of this. Yeah. Okay. So how do we make this work? Let me So, look, the first thing is have a list. You need a centralized database of people that could buy from you or could refer you to other people. You need that list for 500 people, 300 people, 600 people. These are people that you've met, people that know you, people that you've interacted with, people that maybe attended a webinar, people that you've chatted to on LinkedIn over time here, right? And you want to strategically build the relationship with them. Yes. So, oh, sorry, yeah, this is always going to happen. My 2 seconds. No, this is all gonna go. I knew doing it on my iPad was going to cause me a few tricky problems. Yeah. Um, so map the relationships you have with each of them. You need to grade them, right? A, B, in A or B, A high value. A is a high value, high potential. B is a high value, mid potential, or high potential, mid value, right? So engage with them consistently. You want to be doing stuff for people, yeah, right? So first of all, you want to stay in touch with them, maybe share content with them. You like and comment on their posts. Maybe you have coffees with them regularly. Maybe you invite them to a webinar. You want to interact with them. Maybe you can refer them to someone, but you've got this constant nurture going on of that relationship, particularly with your A contacts. And I haven't met any companies that do this over in forever, right? But over the last 12 years of doing what we do at 1,000 Steps, I have never met an organization that strategically has this mapped, not once. Okay. So you need to be strategic about it, know who you're nurturing and why you're nurturing them, be consistent. So you have to track it, and it needs to be authentic. Think of the concept of pay it forward. I introduced someone to which I didn't really believe that there was any opportunity of any business there. And I introduced someone to a friend. I'd met this guy at an exhibition, and I introduced him to a friend of mine because I thought it was a good fit. And then about 6 weeks later, he sent me an email saying, "Look, I've got a grant of 40,000 euros, and I need to put a proposal in for it. I've filled out the proposal for you. Can you sign this? I want you to run business development for us in Asia for the next 6 months." Yeah. So out of nowhere, I mean, I didn't even have to go through a sales process, but that was because I built an authentic and genuine relationship, and we use the philosophy of paying it forward. And sometimes I get scolded for our team for doing too much for free. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it invariably comes back to you. Yeah? So that's the lead gen piece. It's simple, but you should have a bit. If you pull out 300, 200, 500 contacts and nurture them over 5 years, I promise you that will convert into revenue, yeah, in a way that you will not believe, yeah. But you need to be consistent, and it needs to be sustainable as you move forward, okay? So the second workflow is meetings with people, right? It's not just first meetings, it's meetings. People who are not buying at the moment, we're always trying to sell to them, right? And we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be going into a meeting to say, I want to sell to you. I want you to buy my product. I would go into a meeting to have a meeting and have a chat. Invariably, at the end of the meeting, it becomes pretty obvious where you should be going. And if they have, as I say here at the bottom, if they have a need, they will tell you, and it's a nice surprise when that happens. In fact, I had a meeting yesterday, it went particularly well. And met the person, right? Yeah, I like him, and does amazing stuff. And in the end, we've got a collaboration, a project. There's a possible sitting down and saying maybe we can do some work with him as well. Yeah. And so, but that came from just having a meeting with no scope within it. It wasn't to solve a problem for them, right? So, and that happens all the time. Yeah. So, and think of dating. you know, nothing happens in a dating, in dating and friendships and working relationships. They don't happen in 60 minutes. Okay, you don't, you don't. That's not the way it works. Yeah. So we want to have 500 people, and we want to think of the slow and steady pacing on the relationship. Yeah. So I want to give you a case study before I explain how to do it. But I had this client, right, that in Singapore, that we mapped all of the engineers and all of the companies they wanted to sell to, that they wanted to manage the relationship. So it was a 500,000 people they wanted to do that, and they had their people manage relationships with these engineers over time. Nothing more than that. No business conversations, no selling, no nothing. But then when opportunities happened, they were the trusted partner, and they grew from 2.7 billion. After 4 years, we're turning over 7 billion, and then they're now at 30 billion plus. Yeah, and it just came back to database management. Yeah. Okay, and doing business meetings the right way, non-transactionally, not selling anything. The selling happens. So when you're doing a meeting, when you're going into these meetings, the structure and framework of a meeting should look like this. Do research on the person, the company, the industry before you go in there. Okay, build up rapport. Don't jump into business. Build up rapport. Talk about the weather. Talk about the football. Talk about the what's of interest to them and the research that you've done and so on and so forth. Yeah, and the industry as well. Yeah, and generally I finish with the industry in the report piece. Introduce yourself. If you've met them before, you don't need to do this, obviously. Chat to them, ask questions, have a bit of engagement. You can then talk about something that's going on in your world. And I was cycling with a guy in Singapore who is the CTO of a bank, and he has a 4 billion a year that he has from a spending perspective. Yeah. And he said the worst thing for him is when a salesperson comes in and just goes into pitch mode. He said, I want to have a conversation and I want to chat. And at some point, something will click within that conversation. We'll talk about it a little bit more. And he said, in exact words to me, where the deal is done then, right? Now we step into a conversation, but that's the cadence that these people want to work at. And most people want to work there. They don't want to be pitched to, they don't want to deck, right? They don't want to summarize the conversation and then book the next meeting. So the conversation might be, it's gone really well. Let's do this. And the case yesterday was, let's look at these two collaborations. I think we can both work together on this because you're doing this, we're doing this, and I think we can work together. And but also let's have another meeting to discuss the possibility of doing some work together where we do some work for you in this area that you've said is important to you. So see, I'm summarizing it and then I book the meeting, and in that case it's two meetings. Yeah. So it's there's outcomes of this, okay, and they're all good. We need to, our intent is to sell, and as soon as our intent is to sell, and that manifests itself in disappointment when they don't want to buy at the end. Yeah, okay, but we need to not be that isn't the end, right? Ultimately, yes, if you establish that they're never going to buy from you and it's a complete waste of time and there's a clash of person, whatever, right? Then you don't want to deal with them. But often there's no opportunities just now, but we want to nurture the relationship long term. And then something comes back later. Happens all the time. If you cultivate these relationships and keep them warm, timing changes. Yeah. You might have to do another meeting with someone else. Like yesterday, I'm having another meeting with another founder within the organization. So it's not a discovery meeting. I'm sorry, I might have another meeting with someone else or another meeting with them. Yeah, right. So this one was with someone else, and then you might go to discovery, right? So, and I'm going to explain opportunities. When I'm going to discovery, that means there's an opportunity there, right? That means we've agreed that we're going to explore this in more detail and look at how we possibly could put together a proposal that will will help them do what they're doing. So that's the outcomes of workflow two, right? Of just having regular meetings. You can imagine if you do 3 meetings a week with people and it's creating these types of outcomes, you're going to make money from it. What's definite is if you're not doing meetings with people and having conversations, and some of them are not going to be sales opportunities that come from them, you're not going to make money from it. And our tendency in a sales world is always to be doing meetings to make money, and we shouldn't be doing that. It's not the answer, We do it to build trust and relationships. And quite often someone will say, hey, let me introduce you to Peter, right? Or, let's talk again in 6 months. Or, I like what you're doing here. It's just not the right time at the moment. And that's great. I'm just as happy with that as someone saying, here's an opportunity. I mean, genuinely, I'm just as happy with that. It doesn't make any difference to me. So, um, so what does a healthy pipeline look like? 20% of everybody you meet is not going to go anywhere, right? 40% is going to go into nurture, 40% will go into opportunity, right? You'll create an opportunity from these meetings, and it might be 30%. So if you have 3 meetings a week, one of them ideally will become an opportunity in your pipeline, okay? And so these meetings, and we call them introductory meetings, but these meetings that are not sales meetings yet, the backbone of your business, you can define how much revenue you produce by the volume and the quality of these meetings. So the volume, the quality of the person you're meeting, and the quality of how the meeting's being run. So workflow three is, okay, we've got an opportunity. What do we do with that? How do you make money? Again, I, there's so much science around closing skills and the correlation with failure in selling. So the better trained you are at closing, the less revenue you make. Because at the end of the day, people want to deal with nice people that they like and that they trust. They want to work through a process of selling where they're selling with they want to buy. Yourself, think about it, right? I want to buy from people I like, and I feel confident enough to say I don't really want that. I want this. What's your thoughts? And we're having this sort of conversation. Okay. So how do we do this? First of all, stop pitching. I hate decks. I don't use them. I've never used them. People say send a deck, and I'm like, "Well, actually, I don't have one, right? So I have some case studies, but that's about it. Yeah. So, and the more you understand them, and the more they understand themselves, the deeper the trust is between you both. Yeah. So someone said to me, it was a scenario, and they said, "Well, I need to be able to articulate this through a story." And then I'll be able to put my point across of how amazing what we do, what we would do for them would be, right? And I, I don't believe that's the way, right? I want to be able to put across what we do by asking the right questions. So I want to say, I want, and as an example, we create professional videos for your business, right? And they, and they're amazing videos, and we do this, and this is how it works, and this is how you can use them, and this is what. Or tell me a little bit about how you communicate with your clients here, right? What type of methodologies are you using for communicating with clients here, right? How do your clients interact with you, right? What do they like that you do? You're right. How are you measuring it? You're right. What mediums are you using? Are you using video? How do you use video? See, again, asking questions completely changes it. It gets them to think and it helps you understand them rather than making assumptions that they should be doing it. Yeah. So in this framework here, I'm not going to talk about proposal meetings and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about the first 2 phases, which are by far 90% of your sales process. Get them right, and everything else works from there. Yeah. Okay. So the introductory phase is again what we just talked about earlier. Yeah, right. It's you want to be having a chat with them, light, curious, no demos, no deck. You're having communication where out of that communication, doing it the right way, it makes sense to do something or not to do something. Yeah. Okay. So and we want to interact with them. I mean, I was thinking if you give someone a referral, if you like them enough to introduce them to someone that helps them do something, you've got a friend for life. Yeah. So, but don't do it to get something back here, right? It shouldn't be a transactional. Problem-based selling is dead. It creates resistance. It creates that closing skill thing. Your problem is this, and I find people buy based on what you can do for them rather than what the output is at the end, right? So, like, take for example, if I'm selling software into a firm and it's accounting software and it correlates all the different softwares together and it makes it all work. The thing that worries them more than anything is not the output and how they're going to use it. It's how do I get all this working at the beginning of the process? They're much more concerned about that. They're concerned about the doing piece rather than the problem piece. Yeah. Okay. Because they're aware, they know what the problem is, right? You don't need someone to lecture them on it. Yeah. So we want to create real conversations. Yeah. So we want to ask questions. You can see one is creating resistance. Asking questions creates dialogue and trust. And you can't, it also, there's a thing, if you can't ask the questions and you don't know what questions to ask, which is quite common, that demonstrates you don't really know your topic very well. You haven't thought about it, haven't reflected on it, and that that's a problem. So one creates resistance where the other creates a conversation. Okay, so for me, discovery, you've got that intro phase that I showed you earlier. Discovery is where business is done. Okay, so and it's quite interesting. And one of my best friends, his father-in-law is one of the top lawyers in America. I mean, he's not now, right? He's 85. But he was so successful. He has his own office, still in an office. Like he's part of the firm. He still owns the firm now, but he has his office there and he does a lot of pro bono stuff. Yeah. And he said like 90% of a good court case is preparation. And the discovery is a critical part of that. Yeah. Okay. So the getting information does two things. It helps the other person think differently and it helps you understand where they are. Yeah. I would happily go through a meeting and never tell anyone what we do, but purely asking questions. And the outcome of that is always a lot better. So from a discovery point of view, there's a cadence here. Again, research, prepare your questions. Okay, reset the relationship with rapport. Make sure you build up rapport when you meet them again. Explain what you're going to do together. Deep technical questions, document everything, summarize what you've learned after you've gone through the questions, and then book the next meeting. I was brought in for a large technology company in Australia that had a problem with one of the divisions. Hadn't sold for 3 or 4 months, 5 months, and there was 7 salespeople. But they had 110 cases in the pipeline. There was no documented discovery at all in the pipeline, none. And when we broke down the cases, 60 of them were completely worthless. 40 needed to restart the whole sales process, and only 10 were real. Yeah, it wasn't that the rest were fake; they just had done a terrible job of it. Yeah. Okay. Some of the contacts actually had no idea they were in a sales process because no one had asked them any questions. Okay, so it's the quality of the questions and how you ask it is critical. And again, I come back to the doctor analogy. When did you start to feel ill? What triggered it? How is your general health? What exercise step? How's your diet? Tell me about your family life. What triggers the depression? What are the symptoms? How do they show themselves? Yeah. So when you ask these questions, the patient's thinking, reflecting, and often at the end of it, they know what they need to do. All right, before you even advise them. I need to go to the gym and I got to sort my diet out. So intrinsically, they're motivated more than when they came in and said, I just want some medicine now. So discovery changes everything. Yeah? So now some sales processes lead from discovery to a tailored demo. If I've done discovery and intro phase properly, it is 10 times easier because I can build the tailored demo that fits exactly what they want. Yeah. If I'm doing a workshop with a client as that next phase or a POC, I know exactly how to frame it. Yeah. Or if I'm writing a proposal, I really can get the color in the proposal and the language that rotates around them. Yeah. Okay. By doing discovery properly. So a deal is won or lost way before the proposal meeting. So the proposal meeting should be a formality. Yeah. Okay. It should be let's go through this. Off we go. And I get that if we're bidding on a project or if we're brought in late into the process, or I get, but if we're initiating these projects and we're right there at the beginning, yeah, right? That trust is built because we've done the intro phase and the discovery phase properly, and we've asked the right questions. So it's one in the relationship you build before the person has a need. It's one in the first meetings where you ask the right questions, and it's one in the discovery phase where you take the time to genuinely understand what that person's doing. Yeah, and that's what we do, right? I mean, as Strain said earlier, we practice what we preach. So, we have 5 salespeople; they all follow the same process, and we work with all our clients do the same thing, or most of them do. Some of them don't, right? Some of them just doing it the old way, right? But I can't change that, right? But a lot of them are doing what we're doing, and it has a profound impact on the revenue streams. So I want to just quickly talk about chamber, and then Strain's going to come in. But I'm a huge fan of the chambers of commerce. We should be in the chambers. We should be using the chambers. We should be getting involved. I'm part of the chamber in Singapore. I'm part of your chamber here, and the West Lothian Chamber. And it's great. It's a really fantastic place to get mentorship, to get insights, to meet potential clients, to do business, to network, and I just can't stress it enough. It's super super important. So, straight over to you. That's me done now.
Yeah, I think just to kind of re-emphasize what you're saying there, Fraser, about the chamber itself, fantastic resources within it, a great opportunity for business of all sizes, whether it's a business like the one that I'm in myself with 250, 300 employees, or whether it's one just with a one-man band, it's a fantastic opportunity there. And obviously Nicole is on the call as well. So if anyone isn't a member of the chamber and is looking to join, I'm sure Nicole will be able to pick that conversation up.